Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gustavo's Book Club. And we are currently reading Chef AJ's book, The Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss. And this is the book club where we support each other, we inspire each other, and in some ways, why not? We hold each other accountable. I hope that everybody has had a wonderful week. How was it? Please tell us if you don't mind. Did you have any struggles? Was it good? Were you able to have enough food in your house so that you didn't have to eat or go find something that was not compliant? How was it? I'm not sure if you saw yesterday's webinar where I interviewed Dr. John McDougall, my hero, and also Chef AJ's hero, and many of us, one of the greatest pioneers of the whole food plant-based movement, with his focus on starches as a way to keep us satiated and feeling comfortable, and also to not count calories or portions or anything like that. If you didn't have a chance to watch that, it was a wonderful webinar. I am glad that think I'm going to start doing webinars, not every week like I used to with Dr. McDougall, but maybe once a month. And in yesterday's webinar, we discussed the role of nutrition for us to stay healthy and safe during these difficult times. We talked about a little bit about the vaccine. We talked a little bit about, let's see, I think we just focused on that. And if you want to watch it, it's in my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is under my name, Gustavo Tolosa. If you haven't subscribed to it and clicked on the little bell, please do. It just helps me to have subscribers as I do these free webinars. And if you haven't visited my website, which is plantemas.com, please visit it. There are free videos there that are really nice. And then there are some paid videos if you want to get some of my original recipes from my grandmother, who was from Spain, and from my mother, and also from me, myself, and that I made up. If you want to order some of those, they're there as well. So today, let me start by just mentioning two questions that I had last week. One of them was from someone who was asking about the dawn phenomenon. I was not familiar with that. I asked AJ and she said, I'm not a medical doctor, so I can't talk about that. Well, okay, I'm not a medical doctor either. I am a doctor of music, but I can tell you what I found out that made sense. Some of the recommendations from doctors was to, if you're experiencing this dawn phenomenon, is to eat dinner a little earlier. So don't eat too late or close to going to bedtime. Maybe go for a walk before going to bed, or not right before, but in the evening. And also maybe eat at night, eat more non-starchy vegetables, like Chef AJ says, always eat a big salad or a soup before you eat the starchy food. So perhaps try eating more non-starchy vegetables at night and see what happens. And maybe those things will help. If not, Then when we have a doctor as a guest, which may be next week, we can ask the doctor. So the other question I had was, or a comment, I guess, was that someone said that if recipes include oats or rice or potatoes, I can't eat them. They spike my glucose really high because I'm type 2 diabetic. So in order to answer that question, I'm going to refer you to Reversing Diabetes by Dr. Neil Barnard. The previous book club was on this book. And so when you go to my YouTube channel and you go to the playlist online book club, you'll find all of the sessions. But if you have the book, on page 129, he gives a very good explanation, which I think it would be good for all of us to review. And he talks about how somebody has heard that carbs are bad. So this person decides that carbohydrates they're going to avoid carbohydrates and add fish and chicken back into the diet. And at first it seems like a good idea because the blood glucose does not spike strongly after meals because there is very little starch in the meals to provide glucose. And so, I've found the diet to keep my blood sugar down. Over the next several days, however, this person notices that the fasting blood glucose values are going up. And they keep going up. So Dr. Neil Barnard says there are only 3 sources of calories: carbohydrate, fat, and protein. In avoiding carbohydrate, if you avoid it, you're left with fat, which tends to increase insulin resistance, and protein, which has problems of its own. The increased fat intake did not increase his blood glucose immediately, but fatty diets tend to increase the amount of fat inside the cells. The result is that insulin resistance gradually worsens. This means that any carbohydrate he ate later would cause a bigger blood sugar spike than it otherwise would have. Remember that, as Dr. Neil Barnard explains, diabetes type 2 is caused because there is too much fat inside the cells. And so the insulin cannot do its job to get the glucose inside the cell. And so the glucose remains in the blood, and then you have high glucose because the insulin cannot open the lock, he says, to open the lock of the cell to get the energy in, to get the glucose in. Why? Because it's messed up. It's full of fat inside. This doesn't mean that the person is fat. That's why we can see diabetics who are not overweight or obese, because one thing is the fat in our outside body, and one thing is the fat inside the cells. So the answer to this is to avoid fatty foods and choose healthy carbohydrates, rich foods, letting the glycemic index help you choose the best of them. And then he says, this is something for this person. I don't know if the person is here today. Meals will always, and any doctor I've talked to says the same thing, meals will always cause a temporary rise in blood glucose. Don't try not to take your blood glucose right after you eat, because it's going to go up, especially if you're in a starch-based diet like this. So what you are looking for is an overall trend downward as your insulin sensitivity gradually improves, as you take the fat out of your diet and you replace it with starches, healthy starches, and non-starchy vegetables. Your downward trend will be downward overall. So I hope that I answered that question. That book is wonderful. If you don't have it, I really recommend it. So let's go now to our book with Chef AJ, and I would like to go to page. This is page 38. Okay, and she says in the second paragraph that she attributes her success at weight loss to two improvements that she made in her diet. Eliminating high-fat, calorie-dense foods such as nuts and nut butters and replacing them with more satiating, less calorie-dense starches. That's number one. And number two, always eating vegetables for breakfast and continuing to eat the more calorie dilute foods first throughout the day. In the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, she encourages the participants to consume at least 1 pound of non-starchy vegetables for breakfast and then 1 pound of non-starchy vegetables sometimes during the day. She says consistently eating a raw salad or a calorie dilute vegetable-based soup before meals will work very well. So on page 39, it says, make sure you chew your food really well to a cream. Most people cannot go from eating virtually no vegetables to eating 2 pounds a day, so your system may need time to adjust. If this turns out to be the case for you, work up that amount slowly. So perhaps eating 1/4 to 1/2 a pound of vegetables at a time instead of a whole pound at a time. Carbohydrates, it says in the last paragraph, carbohydrates are our body's preferred source of fuel. It is the fuel that we process most efficiently. When your diet is deficient in complex carbohydrates, you will be hungry. Carbohydrates are to hunger what oxygen is to the need to breathe and water is to thirst. I think that is such a wonderful comparison. Carbohydrates are to hunger where oxygen is to the need to breathe and water is to thirst. You cannot limit the amount of air that you breathe. You breathe as many times as you need to. You really cannot limit how much you drink. You need to drink when you're thirsty. And the same way with eating. You need to eat when you are hungry to a comfortable level, but you need to eat foods that are plant-based, that are full of fiber and water, and as we can see here, starches, because without them, it's not a sustainable diet. On page 41, we have something very important at the end of the first paragraph. It says, always remember that you will not gain weight if the calorie density of the foods you eat averages 567 calories per pound or less, which happens to be all the foods to the left of the red line. It is imperative, she says in the last paragraph of page 41, it is imperative that you eat large enough portions of the right foods, including enough non-starchy vegetables to ward off food cravings, while still enjoying ample starch, that you eat it all early enough in the day for satiation and meal satisfaction. You need to do this consistently and continue to eat this way even after you lose the weight. Now, on page 42, what about those rare cases? Um, I really wish this was me, but it's never been, and I doubt that it will ever be. But what if you were getting too thin? Or what if you are, worried that you're getting too thin? So this is on page 42, and this is the third paragraph. And Chef AJ says, an easy solution would lie in simply eating more starch or adding small portions of the whole food fats to the right of the red line, such as an ounce of nuts or seeds or some avocado, assuming that these are not trigger foods for you. When you eat this way, it is very easy to maintain your weight as long as you continue eating the same foods that you ate to lose weight. Yeah, the chart is in the back of the book, but it is also on the internet. If you go to Google and you put Chef AJ, you put calorie density chart, you will find it. With the exception of the whole plant foods that are comprised primarily of fat like nuts, seeds, and avocado, all the foods to the right of the red line are foods that are not found in nature, and we eat them as they were manufactured. To the left of the red line, we have whole foods. To the right of the red line, except for the high-fat plant foods, we have highly processed foods. On page 45, it says that feeling full is important, especially for those with a long history of dieting based on deprivation and restriction, and for those who are food addicts and or emotional eaters. I want to say something before I forget. Chef AJ says to not worry about, most of the times, we could say, getting too thin, because your body will eventually find its right weight, and it will keep it there, 1 pound less, 1 pound more. You won't lose until you basically disappear. That doesn't happen. So how do you know if you reached your goal weight? Well, this is something that you could go with charts that tell you what the ideal weight is, and more or less they usually give you a range. This is something that you could talk with your doctor as well. You could just lose weight as you feel well and as you feel comfortable. I still haven't reached, I have to admit, I haven't reached my ideal weight yet. I have lost 70 pounds. I would like to lose more. I will stop when I know when I will stop. I don't like to look a certain way. I'm not gonna describe anymore, but and I know more or less what the weight is, because at one time in my life, way back, when I was a certain weight, I think I looked good. So I think I mentioned this in the first session that we had. I follow a completely whole food plant-based diet, and I started with a starch solution. And throughout this 7 or so years, I have refined that, and I have taken more and more things out. For example, I almost don't eat pasta anymore. And if I eat it, it is once every 2 or 3 months. And if I eat it, it's whole wheat based, or I may make gnocchi, which is a pasta that's based on potatoes. Now, the traditional way has potato and a little bit of flour. But as you may know from my Pianist and the Chef show, I found a way to leave out the flour and make the gnocchi with this wonderful tomato sauce and enjoy it that way. So I don't really eat pasta anymore, but can I say that I don't ever eat it? No. I don't care for nuts and seeds or nut butters. I don't really care for avocados. I think they're delicious, but I don't have to eat them. And of course, nothing else. I mean, nothing that has to do with animal products. But like I mentioned in my first session, I do struggle with breads. I don't really struggle with sugar. My taste for sugar really was amazing. I used to be a sugar addict, and I don't have that. So it's pretty much the bread. Do I eat bread every day? No. Do I eat it every week? No. But do I have it at home? No. So when I eat it, is maybe I went to a restaurant and I had a slice or two. Or if I have guests, I may buy a loaf of entirely whole wheat bread that does not have any oil, of course, or there's a place where I can get it without salt to make toast. So I know that I need to completely stop that. And at this point, it would be good if I really got in the habit of exercising every day, which I do it almost every day. But I am, these are all excuses, being so busy. Sometimes I decide that it's more important to answer all these emails and to edit these videos and to practice my piano for an upcoming concert or something like that. And I don't go to exercise that day. So I know what to do. And maybe with this wonderful group here, I can have the encouragement and the support to do it. So I'm still working. I have not reached my ideal weight. So we're going to move on to page 45 and say that Chef AJ talks a little bit about emotional eating. And I think this page is important. And at the end of this page 45, the last paragraph, it says that one of the questions that needs to come up in your mind every time you're going to choose food is, which will fill my tummy more? The only way the foods to the right of the red line can possibly ever fill your stomach is if you overeat them, because they don't provide enough satiety. Most of them don't have enough or any fiber and water. For most people in general, and overweight people and food addicts in particular, eating the foods to the right of the red line does not lead to satiety and merely perpetuates overeating, because foods of a higher calorie density simply are not as filling. So to finish this chapter 2, Chef AJ says, I believe that when you fully understand the concept of calorie density, you can create both the health and the body that you so richly deserve. And when it comes to ultimate weight loss, calorie dilution is the solution. And so, my friend, to achieve your desired weight and optimal health, and for disease prevention and reversal, Here is the secret to ultimate weight loss. Eat to the left of the red line. Okay, so we're going to get started a little bit on chapter 3, which is called Starting Ultimate Weight Loss Program. And the first paragraph pretty much says it all. It says, the Ultimate Weight Loss Program is a groundbreaking lifestyle intervention program in which individuals adopt a low-fat, whole food, plant-exclusive diet free of all processed foods, including all sugars, including zero-calorie sweeteners, all flours and flour products, oil, salt, and alcohol, and eat only the foods to the left of the red line for a period of at least 21 days, and consume at least 2 pounds of non-starchy vegetables daily, starting with at least 1 pound of non-starchy vegetables as the first food of the day. There you have it. That's, we could just close the book and that's it. Okay, well, but we will continue. That is the ultimate weight loss description. But on page 48, Chef AJ gives you one of the biggest secrets to losing weight. And I can't emphasize this enough. I think together with AJ, together with Dr. Lyle, together with everybody else, this one thing will determine if you succeed or not. And what is this one thing? The environment. It may sound, sometimes things go by and they're not processed. I know it took me a while to process it. But because sometimes we may think that we're strong and that we can have things in the environment that are not compliant and that we will be able to say no to them. But that's not the truth for 99.9% of people. As Chef AJ says it, I can't find a better way to say this. If it's in your house, it's in your mouth. And I have to say that I have experienced that. And that if I'm not careful, I will continue to experience it. Because our bodies are designed to seek high calorie density foods. So cleaning up your environment is going to be your first step here when you're starting the program. And it is the number one predictor of your success, like Chef AJ says in the second paragraph here. What happens when you have people in your house who are not following or joining you in this journey? Well, that makes it difficult. That sometimes makes it very difficult. We will not say, we won't lie about it. That's the truth. Chef AJ says that this journey will be infinitely more difficult for you. And it's not meant to discourage you. It's just that you have to know the truth and you will be more prepared to handle situations. Some of my clients have explained to their families that they're doing this because they love them and they want to be around for them for a very long time. They cooked only compliant meals for their families while asking them to eat all the other unhealthy foods outside of the home. So it's important that if you're going to have family in the house that will be eating foods that is not compliant, that you ask them to eat them outside of the house, not inside. Okay, so AJ says, please remove all the following items from your home. And on page 48 and 49, there is a list of 10 things to get rid of. They need to be permanently removed from your home. We won't read them because you have the book, but basically it's all animal products, all processed products, all, of course, sugar and sweeteners, and of course oil and salt, and of course everything that has flour, anything that has alcohol or caffeine, dry fruit, chocolate, etc. Having a pristine environment will be critical to your success. If you do decide to ever eat any non-compliant foods once the program is over, and the program is 21 days, I recommend that you always eat them outside of your home and never have them in your home. Because as every food addict knows, if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. It's not a matter of if you will eventually succumb to temptation and eat it. It's only a matter of when. So once you have cleared your home and your work environments of all the contraband, go out and check your car. You know that emergency candy bar that is actually called an energy bar? Well, that has to go too. Then, after you have cleared and cleaned your home and your work and your car, go food shopping. Try to not put this off for the next day or the next day or the next day and have nothing health promoting at home. So again, there is a list of 10 things for you to get at the store, like fresh fruit, frozen fruits with no sugar added, fresh non-starchy vegetables, frozen vegetables with no salt added, whole grains, a really good quality of vitamin B12 supplement, legumes, starchy vegetables, flax seeds, chia seeds or hemp seeds, and then some condiments that are salt-free. On page 51, Chef AJ says, please make sure that you always have plenty of delicious, compliant food on hand. And she says, I have provided you enough recipes in this book so that you can have compliant food on hand. And I think I have mentioned this, but when I make food, most of the time, unless the recipe makes 8 or 10 or 12 portions, I usually double it, and in some cases triple it if they can be frozen, because you always want to have food in your refrigerator. So now, talking about food, let's see how easy it is to make the red lentil chili. And this is on page 180. The red lentil chili, I don't know if you've tried red lentils, but red lentils are very creamy and they have this different taste. They're wonderful. So this is these are the kind of recipes I like, because basically you throw in everything in an instant pot or a pot and it's done. So, but this one in particular, besides the red lentils, you have some fire roasted tomatoes if you can find them. If not, maybe just add some smoked paprika or something like that. You also need 1 pound of red bell peppers, because you're going to blend this and add it to the lentils. So let's look at this recipe. I made it this week, and I'm sorry that I could not film the part where I tried, because I told myself I was going to do it, and I ate it, and then we ate it the next day. And when I was ready to film it, it was gone. So that can tell you how good it was. Let's watch here briefly. This doesn't take long. It's a short video how we can make this wonderful red lentil chili. And if you want to follow it, it's on page 180 and 81. So you will need 1 pound of red lentils, 1 pound of red lentils. We're going to first put the 2 cans of fire roasted tomatoes in a blender, and those are 1 pound of red bell pepper. It's just raw, okay? And it's like 2 large peppers right there. And then tomato paste. And we also have 8 cloves of garlic. And that's what we're going to blend. We're going to blend the tomatoes, the red bell peppers, the garlic, and this is optional, but you could put dates. 3 ounces of pitted dates. That is 1 pound of red lentils with 8 cups of water. That has 8 cups of water. I'm going to put the onions there. And that's the blended, the red peppers and the tomatoes and all that. The onions was 10 ounces of chopped onions. You're going to put 4 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, 1.5 tablespoons of parsley flakes, 1.5 tablespoons of dried oregano, 1.5 tablespoons of salt-free chili powder, 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika. It needs to be smoked, 1/2 teaspoon of chipotle powder, and then 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes, which I left out because that's just too spicy for me. And then that goes in the Instant Pot for 10 minutes, okay? Just 10 minutes. If you put all of this in a slow cooker, you can do that, but that's gonna take 6 to 8 hours instead of 10 minutes. And that's it. Look how creamy it is. I can already tell, I can already smell that. I can recall the wonderful aroma that this had. I hope you will try it, because you can serve this on brown rice. You can serve it on a baked potato. You can serve it on quinoa. It's up to you. I hope you enjoyed that. And just one thing I want to mention about frozen vegetables, because sometimes people think that frozen vegetables are not good enough. On page 51, the second paragraph, Chef AJ says that studies have shown that frozen produce is every bit as nutritious as fresh, sometimes even more so, because what happens is this: fresh produce and fruits is picked at its peak of ripeness. It's not picked green when it's not ripe yet. And it's flash frozen. That means that it's immediately frozen, so it retains all the valuable nutrients. Even fresh organic produce often sits on a truck for days before you can purchase it, losing valuable nutrients. I hope that you have enjoyed today's webinar session, and next week we will finish chapter 3, perhaps dive a little bit into chapter 4. Thank you for joining me for these 45 minutes, and as usual, have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.